Hey, everybody, we are live. Let me bring in Mr. Anthony Melchiorri here. Anthony, good to see you, sir.
How are you, my friend? How's it going today?
Another great day, and wasting away in Coronaville. Maybe that's what the method is. It should be for today. So sorry if I'm a few seconds late, and sorry if I worried you. I hit the go live button, and it said you're not approved to go live. So I completely freaked out. Hit the reset. We're live right now. Thank you guys for being here and joining us once again for another live show. As you know, Anthony and I are trying to do live shows every single day so we could keep you posted. We're going to bring in our guest in just 1 second, Mr. Sean Hennessy, CEO of Lodging Advisors. But Anthony, before we bring him in, how are you doing today? How are you processing?
I'm doing good. I actually moved from my home office to my home car in my driveway because my dog is barking. And,
I thought it was because your family insisted on more social distancing.
No, everybody's home, and the dog's barking because she's so excited that everybody's home. And at the wee chance that you can hear the dog barking in my office, I figured, let me just get my car. So that's where my office is today. So I don't want people to think I'm driving around. I'm actually
right. Let's bring in our guest, Sean Hennessy, for today. And I'd love for you guys out there to ask some questions. We're trying to keep this thing fluid. Anthony and I are going to be doing daily updates whenever possible. I'm thinking it's going to be possible every day. That's because we've got such great people rallying around us in our community right now. One of them, of course, Mr. Sean Hennessy, who's not only CEO of Lodging Advisors, but an assistant professor at NYU. Great to see you, Sean.
Great to be here. Happy to chat with you guys.
Hope
you're all safe.
Anthony, I don't want to be Mr. Hoggy Hog over here, so why don't you start us off?
Well, Sean, you're the expert. You're the one that people call in the good times and the bad times. And right now we're seeing a time that no one has seen. So between the three of us, I hate to admit it, but there's about 150 years of experience here. And we haven't seen anything like this. So we're depending on people like you to, again, I don't think anybody has a crystal ball of where we're going to be in a week or in a day or even by the end of the day. But what are you seeing right now? What are you hearing? What are you experiencing?
But before you share that, I would like you to compliment me on how I'm clean shaven and how Anthony looks a mess today.
Yes, evidently when he picked up the toiletries, he forgot razor blades. So.
Yeah.
Wait, you said to me, Sean, shave or no shave? I said it's no shave Tuesday.
Well, listen, guys, it's unbelievable. It's a function of the hotel business that you have to sell your rooms every night, and when things are good, that's great, and when they're not so good, the pain is exceptional. So it was really just a week ago that the Wall Street analysts were characterizing the lodging industry as resilient. Mm-hmm. Now the world is turned upside down. We heard today that over the weekend, Governor Cuomo had an off-the-record talk with New York hoteliers about the possibility of converting hotel rooms to medical facilities for both the caretakers and those in need. So the world has changed. My estimate now is that by the end of next week, virtually all of the New York City hotels will either be closed or will have minimal inventory. You saw today Marriott announcing that they're furloughing tens of thousands of their employees and shutting certain hotels. So this is completely unprecedented, and it's hard to describe the challenges and all the logistics that go into these issues.
Well, here's the thing, Sean. We had you on here so you could help us do exactly just that. So let's try hard to go through it one step at a time. And guys out there, look, we're just trying to keep this positive. We want to be forthright and honest with you about what is happening, but we're not going to be dour. We're going to look at this very methodically and try to figure out ways that we could all get through this together. I know we're still working through the shock aspect of it and in a reactionary mode, but having conversations with people like Sean, Anthony and I are going to be able to help deliver you folks what you need to know about being proactive in the future. So, Sean, maybe give us a little bit more context about what all of this means.
So, for at least the time being, the amount of travel that's being either promoted or allowed in many of the markets is relatively limited. So that is going to decrease demand. There will be some demand from medical personnel and other types of emergency workers who are supporting, but that pales in comparison to tourists from international markets and so forth. So we are expecting that there'll be a little bit of demand, but the focus more recently is on the hotels and how to either sustain their business or take care of their employees with the lack of business that they have.
Right. Yeah. And hoteliers are really facing very difficult choices right now. And tomorrow on our live broadcast, and we'll give you a notification on exactly when that's happening, but it's looking like 11 a.m. tomorrow, we are going to have on some leadership from management companies to talk about what they're doing.
Thank you.
Anthony? Are you just getting some takeout or something like that?
No, I just got the mail delivered to my car. How cool is that? The mailman saw me and just dropped it into my car. He's a great guy. So I missed the question, unfortunately.
Well, I was just describing how the challenges are multifaceted. One of the things that the hotels that I've been speaking to have been aware of is how are they going to not only continue to keep their employees with health insurance and what wages and hours they can, but also how can they protect employees from the coronavirus, which may be more transmittable in a hotel environment. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes to make everybody as safe as possible.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what you said, keeping employees safe, because employees are in this. And there goes the cat. I'm getting mail delivered.
That'll continue to happen.
And you're getting a cat. So this is real, man. This is live and real. But, and again, what's happening is we're seeing that people who are healthy are transmitting to other people. So a housekeeper goes into a room, and every brand and every hotelier has to understand what the standards should be to keep that employee safe. Also getting back to health benefits and people losing their jobs, the government, what I just heard, is thinking about a $900 million stimulus package. So literally we went from everything's fine, this will be over in a couple of days, to like we're doing a $900 million package. I just had a friend on Facebook lay off his entire restaurant team, and he owns 6 or 7 restaurants. So we've got to, like you said, we got to take care of the safety of our employees, and we also got to do our best for the financial health. We're all getting hit. You're getting hit. I'm getting hit. We're all getting hit.
Yeah. And one thing to keep in mind is that, prior to this event, the economy was fundamentally pretty healthy. Employment was good. Job growth was good. Wage inflation was starting to kick in, which benefits employees. If you look at the conference board, their estimate from their economists, not their doctors, but their economists, is that the peak of this issue, this virus, will happen by the end of April. So we're talking 6 weeks. I've heard from other government officials saying that this could last into the summer as a ramping up exercise. But I think when we get to the point where we've reached a peak, and hopefully it's in April and sooner rather than later, once we see the issue becoming under control, then you can start to make some prognostications about where the market goes from here. But the fundamental issue is that until there is the fear of travel diminishes, there's going to be very hard times for the lodging industry. But once we get past that, the fundamental economics of the business have been pretty darn good, both here in New York and in the U.S. as well as internationally.
Right. I love that. And I think that that's something we could all put in the back of our heads. But Sean, I'd love to ask you, and I think this is changing every single day. 2-3 days ago, we were talking about an issue you brought up about hotels being converted to hospitals and care facilities and that sort of thing. Earlier in the week, or I should say late last week, we were like, that might not be such a good idea. What are you going to do afterwards? Now it seems as the walls are closing in on some owners that it might really be the best short-term solution, or no other solution at all. How do you feel about that?
I would be surprised if by this time next week we don't have an individual owner say to the city of New York, for example, you can use my building because I can't use it as a hotel.
Right.
And the bigger, another question will be, can I provide you with any employees? That has to do with, can you keep the employees safe and how's that's going to work? But
Right.
my guess is that if it hasn't happened already, that there have been hoteliers that have offered their buildings to the city just for use during that period of time. There's obviously some logistics to work out about insurance and so forth,
Right.
but I think people are eager to step up, and the hotel community in many ways has shown time and again that it's very proactive in trying to help out during these times of need.
Right. And I would argue. Go on, Anthony.
I'm sorry. And I think what's important for people to understand that may not understand, the government will pay those owners to
Right.
occupy their building. So I just had a client send me a letter that I won't share because it was a private letter, but basically in a part of not New York, but another part of the country, they were asked by the government to take over their hotel. They will pay them at 100% occupancy. They did not need their employees, but they will pay all expenses as if the place was 100% occupancy with as many employees as they need to run 100% occupancy. So basically, the owners will be whole. They will be able to pay their mortgage, and they will be able to pay the employees, even though the employees are home.
Right. And Anthony, I was totally going to say you should mention that story. So great. Sean?
One model that has already been in place has been hotels with rooms to spare have made them available to the city of New York to house homeless. And we saw that both after Sandy, as well as at other times more recently when there's just been an incredible housing shortage. Certainly the government has more draconian tools they could bring to bear to try to gain occupancy, but there's lots of options. And at this point, I don't know what's rumors and what's not, but I've heard talk of using college dorms, using the Javits Center, using Madison Square Garden as places to provide additional support as needed. So I think all options are on the table at this point. But I think hotels make such a lot of sense because they're compartmentalized rooms. There's the sort of bathing and cleansing facilities and food preparation facilities. So they're a logical place to start looking for help.
And you don't need to find thousands of beds to set up in, a cavernous warehouse where everyone's going to be together anyway, right?
Right.
And
I think this is like where people look at this and go, "Are we here?" Well, we're not here yet, but we may be here. And the good news is we have the capabilities of ensuring that we help the government and help our neighbors, and that we have the resources to do that.
Yeah,
so there's two ways to look at it, and that's the way I choose to look at it.
One way, a different event that I think may provide some guidance is 9/11. So after 9/11, the people were afraid to travel, and it was a terrible time for the hotel business for a period of time. But if you think back, the underlying business world was healthy prior to that event, and there was a relatively quick bounce back as hoteliers and people lost the fear of travel. They had the economic strength to travel, and things kicked back in pretty quickly. I think what we're missing now is any sort of sense that we're approaching or nearing a peak of challenges that will give people a little more confidence to think about, okay, maybe I'll plan a trip to America or to Europe next summer.
Hey, and the best thing about Americans and traveling domestically is we have very, very short minds. So as soon as this passed, I think we're going to get right beyond it, just like 9/11. I remember 9/11, there was an overhang of about 6 months where people were nice to each other in New York City. Then we all got back to being our normal crazy selves. So I feel pretty good about that.
And I think the quickest way to get to recovery is to everybody to hang out. Everybody to stay home, and everybody to, do their part. And I think by us all walking around, everyone seems healthy. We all feel good. A lot of us feel good. And that gives us a sense of, I can go here, I can go there, I can go to a friend's house. Right now, I think, especially in New York, which is now the leader, unfortunately, I think we just need to all chill, and that's why the bars and the restaurants and everything's closing and sports teams are closing. So I think the quicker we just all chill and do things like this is fun. We're still together, we're still working. This is fun. So I think the quicker we do this, the better off we'll be. But again, this is where we all got to keep our heads, and we all got to understand. To your point, Sean, we had a 10-year run. This economy was on fire in the hospitality industry, and it's going to recover. The quicker, and as soon as we're out of this, I think the recovery is going to be a lot faster than most people think, because for a number of reasons. Like the other events you talk about, you necessarily weren't locked in your house. You weren't like, I couldn't travel, I couldn't do this. Like my kids were going to go to Europe. One of my daughters was going to study abroad this summer. One daughter was going to do a mission trip, supposed to be there right now. And so as soon as it's all back, everybody's going to want to go. And so I think the economy and the hotels are going to get right back. And if the government does take over those hotels in New York, that will actually help our economy, because people can stay and still have their health benefits and still get a paycheck.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case. And just to put my other hat on for a second, just yesterday afternoon, NYU announced that they were going to do classes remotely for the balance of the semester. They had said they would be remote for just the first week following spring break, which would be next week, and then they would make up their mind. So they've jumped on what's already a large bandwagon there.
Yeah, and we have two college children in our house, kids in our house, and we have one senior. So my senior is losing her senior year. The rest of her senior year, it looks like, and she's concerned. Obviously, the prom, the trips abroad to study abroad for my college students, and they want to be in the city. One of them goes to school in the city, and they want to be in their dorm. And so that's another thing I think we got to keep in mind is we got to keep our family entertained. We did Family Jeopardy last night.
Nice. I'm glad that you guys have that togetherness. We are practicing that social distancing here. My kids want to have nothing to do with me, so it's a normal weekday night around here. Sean, I got to get to some of these questions that people want to know the answers from you, albeit to everyone listening out there, things are so fluid. They might be changing daily. What we discussed today may not necessarily be applicable in the next couple of weeks. But our good buddy Dave Eisen, who's currently over at Hot Stats, wants to know, what are you thinking about potential uptick in delinquencies? What are lenders saying? What are they seeing out there?
Sure. And hello, Dave. Great to hear from you. There is certainly been an uptick both in properties going into delinquency and properties going on the watch list for being likely to default. There obviously not only are hoteliers not making a profit now, many of them, but many of them aren't meeting payroll. So the challenges at the property level are significant. It's a function of how big of a balance sheet and how much pain and liquidity they can use to survive. I think what's ultimately going to play out, though, is what we've seen in some past crises where hoteliers or owners have gone to their lenders and said, look, I can't pay debt service, but it's not my fault. Everybody else is suffering. If you take the hotel away from me, it's not like you're going to immediately turn around the performance based upon my suboptimal actions. So what we've seen in the past is that the lenders will generally provide a measure of forbearance, and they will restructure the loans to enable people to work through. It would be, politically unpalatable for lenders to start, taking properties back from hoteliers just because they were the people on board at that point in time. So we haven't seen much direct activity yet of foreclosures and bankruptcies. And I think a lot of that stuff will be negotiated rather than antagonistic, if you will.
Anthony?
I think that's a great question, and my clients are asking me that question. There's 3 that are on the bubble and potentially going to not be able to pay their mortgage this month. So everyone's concerned. I think that is probably the biggest question you could have answered. And I tend to agree with you because you're the expert, but that makes sense because 1, politically it's not right, and 2, it's no one's fault. So you've
The-
got to you've got to
I
be able to you've got to be able to come at this. And like we both know, banks and lenders do not want to be hoteliers.
That's a huge issue. That not only is there liability with things like the liquor licenses and so forth, but
Right.
lenders realize they're not good hotel operators. So I would just add that the key point is to get out in front. Don't just not say anything to your lender and
Right.
just not mail in the last 2 checks for the monthly debt service. Make sure you come to them with as much of a plan as you can have at this point, and I think it will be more likely than not that you can work out your differences.
Now, this question may be a little premature, but Morty Steinfeld says that the White House has announced this morning that there will be support for hotel companies out there to help get through this crisis. And he wants to know whether or not you could discuss anything about how smaller hotel groups or even independent hotels might be able to tap into that support. If you don't have a direct answer, maybe just your opinion on what you see is going to be going forward.
Well, we'll probably have something of an answer later today. As I understand it, Trump's meeting today or tomorrow with many of the major hotel companies. And my hunch is that the focus is going to be squarely on the employees, because those hotel companies retain a lot of people, a lot of low salaried employees that are, don't have a lot of savings, all those types of issues. Because of the nature of the hotel industry, where many of the properties are individually owned, the focus is not going to be on providing relief to the investors and the equity owners of the properties. I don't think, at least for some time yet, the real focus is going to be making sure all those employees are not going to be thrown out of their apartments or lose their cars and those sorts of issues.
But don't you also simultaneously have to take care of the employer as well? Because if the employer is not taken care of, then everything you just said is really moot, and they're back to square one, being out of work, being out of luck, being out of most of their life.
Yes. So the hotel companies, since they've all moved to an asset light model where very few of them own real estate, they don't have the kind of issues regarding long-term liabilities to their balance sheets. So I think that gives them that they are essentially the spokespeople for the employees, and they don't feel the pain as much as owners do of a decreasing economic environment. So I think the focus is really going to be on how to best assist the employees of those companies, since they're all such huge employers. And Marriott's announced this morning that they're laying off tens of thousands or furloughing people, and that certainly will get the government's attention. They're going to want to try to limit that as best they can.
And I believe there'll be hundreds of thousands, if not 1 million plus layoffs in the hospitality business pretty darn quick, and that really should get their attention out there. And I leave it up to the good folks like Chip Rogers, President and CEO of the AHLA, and Cecil Staten, President and CEO of AHOA, to make sure that message is being delivered right now more than ever on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more. It's hard to think of the all of the issues that arise when you deal with an issue like this. But certainly the hotel industry, it's a huge employer. It's a huge employer of people at the lower end of the economic scale, and that creates a lot of political pressure, and rightly so, to make sure that those people are not left without some sort of safety net.
So, Anthony, let me ask you this question coming from John Carpenter, who's an executive hotel recruiter. If a hotelier must lay off people, what's the best way to do that? How can you really appropriately stress compassion and honesty like he feels he is doing to make sure that everybody can get through this, at least on the emotional side?
Well, I think what we're doing here and what Sean just did so beautifully is the facts. What are the facts? And the facts are that the government has to ensure that owners and employees are taken care of. That's one of the reasons we have a federal government for instances like this. So to be able to explain that to them. So I think being transparent and telling people what they know, and that, and if you just watched the news this morning, when I heard there was going to be a $900 million bailout, that made me feel a little bit better. When I saw the stock market go up just a little bit, that made me feel better. So explaining those metrics, but more importantly, in your backyard, saying, this is temporary. This is what's happening. We're going to try to keep your health care. So whatever you can do for them, do. And like we said
Right.
yesterday, being kind to each other and doing what you can do. What I'm finding through the people I'm talking to, they, unfortunately, in these hotels, they really can't do much. Whatever they can do. I was just talking to a client, and we were talking through some issues that he's having. And I said, "What are you doing for food?" And he said, "Well, we don't have food in our hotel." And I said, "No, what are you doing for food for your employees? What are you doing to ensure in a week or 2 weeks or 5 weeks or 6 weeks that there's there's something in the pantry for them to grab if they need to grab it?" So things like that, and it wouldn't cost too much for him to make sure that there's cans of food in case somebody needs it. So I think transparency, honesty, and clarity is what will get your team through it. If you panic or if you do things in the short term, those employees will remember it.
Right. Sean, another
In the short term,
yep.
that is not positive.
Sean, we got a question.
In the short term, not positive. Go ahead,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, totally. Sean, we've got a question for you coming from our friend Craig Sullivan, who is the founder of the California Investment Conference, the luckiest conference on the face of the earth, as they were held at the beginning of March, but just as this stuff was starting to emerge. But he wants to know, do you think lenders are going to let hotel owners use reserve accounts
to fund cash? I wouldn't be surprised if they do, particularly if there is an agreement to make it up at some point later on. You've already saw yesterday or the past few days, most of the hotel REITs have announced that they are cutting all of their capital expenditures down to the bare bone. Anything that's not going to result in the significant deterioration of the building is being put on hold. Now, you can only do that for so long, right?
Right.
You can defer those expenses, but not forego them completely. So lenders, there's a variety of tools that hoteliers have in the short term, right? You try to accelerate your receivables, slow down your payables, conserve cash, do all those sorts of things that you learn in Accounting 101 to try and keep your business whole. And, putting cash aside to sit in a checking account for future expenditures doesn't make a lot of sense given all the competing needs right now.
Right. All right. So Chris Boniver wants to know, what about payments to vendors and acceptance of defaults and stuff like that? It's interesting because you're talking about pushing stuff off. You get that ripple effect. Right? I mean, I'm suffering from that ripple effect right now. Anthony's suffering from that ripple effect right now. As everybody, closes quarters and tries to protect what's right in front of them, there could be, casualties all around on the outskirts. So how do you think that's going to be negotiated?
Well, yeah, there's certainly, you think about the supply chain with the laundry companies, the Cisco's, the food service providers, all those groups who have a very large business catering to the needs of the hotel industry. If the hotel industry disappears, they got to disappear too. They've got to feel that pain. So the hoteliers will try to balance those issues with the needs of the employees. So it may come down to, can you pay the employees this week or pay your purveyors?
Right.
The
that
equation,
answer is not even there's not even a question to what the owner's going to do.
Right. And it becomes more, it changes as you move forward, because if the hotels start closing down a significant portion of their properties, then they're not going to need the vendors, and they may not be deferring payment to the vendors, but they may not be ordering any more goods from them either. So that, maybe that sounds a little bit better, but it's still an outright challenge to all the service providers to the industry.
Right. Great. Anthony?
Well, even if you're stopping the capital expenditures, those vendors that would come from outside the hotel are going to be hurt. But again, right now, we're all kind of looking what's in front of us, the hand in front of us. And but all of our decisions personally and professionally are going to have ramifications down the line. And that's where the good news of when we come out of this, we're hoping it'll ramp up quicker because the economy and the hotel metrics were in good shape before we went into it.
Yeah, look, you've seen probably stories about how some of the younger generation is still hanging out at the beach or going out to bars at night. And maybe that's a little cavalier, but I think the fundamental aspect of that is that at least right now, those people are economically happy. They're interested in exploring the world and enjoying life. So I think once this passes, as long as it doesn't go on for so long that everyone, suffers economically, then I think you will see a strong bounce back.
Yeah. And I think to your point, it's important, like we live near the beach. It's important to take a walk on the beach. It's important to take a bike ride. You can do that without being in contact with anyone. But I think that the challenge is going to be not only financial, but also keeping everyone in your home for 4 weeks busy and entertained, and everybody from, having challenges.
So what were you saying about family game night there? Yeah, sorry, Sean. Go ahead.
I was going to say, just think of how eager people are going to be to move on with their lives if they've been living with siblings that they don't really get along with for a couple of months.
And the best thing I'm thinking about, go on, Anthony.
I was going to say, I never thought in my wildest dreams I would say, I can't wait to get on the plane.
Right. Yeah, and with all of this great family togetherness, maybe we'll go on vacation and then get separate rooms from each other just so we can have a little bit more alone time, which we're all going to need, and that'll help the hotel business as well. Sean, I understand that you really have to get going because you've got another thing that you have to prepare for at the top of the hour. We've, of course, been talking with Sean Hennessy, the CEO of Lodging Advisors. Any final thoughts that you have for us today on where we're at? Please give us something positive that we can take home with us today.
Well, like I said, the efforts that the hotels are making to support the larger community, I think we're really going to see a big step up there over the next week or so. And I think once we approach a peak of the issue with the virus, that I think very quickly thereafter, we'll start to see a rebound in hotel demand and the reopening of some of the hotels that are closed.
Right. Anthony?
I just appreciate you being here, and minds like you, people that are kind of in the throes of what's going on in the market, is really important. So I encourage people in your position and other positions to come on every day. We're going to keep this network going, and we're going to be talking to people that have answers. You have real answers, and I'm sure after your meeting today and maybe in a week or two, we'll have you back and you'll have some more answers. I think that helps everyone, and I think information right now is key. And emotion needs to kind of take a back seat. So I think you provided that, and I appreciate it.
Let's not get too crazy. I don't know if we're going to have them back or not. All right, Sean, I really would appreciate if you would join us again to provide us with frequent updates. And for you listeners out there, we're going to be doing the same with STR as well. We've already booked them for Monday, the 30th of March, so we can get a better perspective of what's happening on there. We're going to continue to bring you all the stories that you need to know. Sean, we're going to let you go right now, and then I'm going to wrap up with Anthony. Good luck to you. Thank you so much for being here. Anthony, as Bill DeFar said something great. If we and he is with Spire Hospitality, a big management company. He's a guy I've known for a long time, really great professional. He says, if we all believe there will be big demand for travel after this settles, does it make sense to create an offer for folks to pre-purchase future travel at a discount today? If we offer 25% discounts and everyone bought directly, 100 future to value for 75 now, and they bought direct, so we could save commissions to generate cash flow. Interesting idea, and I see that kind of buy gift cards with your local restaurants phenomenon already.
Well, I think everybody has to do what's right for their company and what they think makes sense, and really a gut check. I was telling you in a personal conversation we're having, literally an hour before cruise lines made an announcement, one of the cruise lines that didn't close down immediately sent me an offer. And that offer wasn't going to get me to travel on a cruise ship. But if you say, hey, in 6 months, maybe we'll give you a discount now for 6 months. Great. But one of the things I'm going to be thinking about, maybe if I wait a month, I'll get even a better discount.
Right.
So I think these creative ways and these creative things to run by your team is absolutely imperative. And if it keeps the lights on and it keeps one employee working, I think it makes sense. And there's some, as a matter of fact, I just ran into someone on another conversation I was having on one of my other live media platforms, and they're a mortgage broker, and they said that their business is great right now. 3% interest rates, they've never seen it so low, and they decided that the next 2 weeks is probably going to be the busiest time of their life. And I said, I hope you're not walking into people's homes. He goes, well, right now I am. I was like, well, you got to shut that down and do everything virtually. But his business is going to be doing really well until maybe people start getting hit in the pocketbook and realize they can't afford the closing costs because they're trying to conserve cash. So everything is on the table.
That's why I am going to be rolling in the closing costs to my new mortgage that I eventually get at this point, because I was thinking about doing that anyway. I think this might be the right time to do it. Might be the only way that I'm going to be able to make things come together if this goes on for a longer period of time. That being said, I don't want to be dour, because we are unstoppable. We're going to be hospitality strong. We are going to give you everything that you need out there in order to succeed. Anthony, any final thoughts before we wrap up this bad boy today?
Well, I think if you can go on my social media or Glenn's social media on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever, ask us questions. Who do you want to see? Is there somebody you'd like to see next? So please let us know. And if you're listening to this and you'd like to be on, please drop Glenn or myself a note. I think it's really important. I know personally, the last 2 days of listening to the two experts we brought on has been to give me answers so I can give to my clients.
Wow. And Dan Lesser, of President and CEO of LW Hospitality Advisors, just said the New York Attorney General has suspended debt collection due to the outbreak. So we're moving in the right direction. The sense of uncertainty that we're having today, Anthony, I think will dissipate as the wheels of government actually move forward and take some action here. I do want to give you another plug. Don't just reach out to us. Join Anthony's Hospitality Success Group on Facebook, because that's really a great place for everybody to come together and work with each other when we're not doing these live broadcasts. Right, Anthony?
Yeah. Our open hospitality success program just got, I think we have 250 members now. And again, all you have to do is go on and we're all talking to each other. So it's, it's there for us all to talk to each other and give information, because right now information is key.
Right. Great. I want to thank everybody for being here and for watching today. Tomorrow, we're going to be back with those leaders from the different management companies to give that perspective. Then I hope to have Chip Rogers set for either tomorrow or the day after that. And then we are going to do a Feel Good Friday. And Anthony and I are going to inject some positivity in your lives with some great special guests. So I want to thank you guys for being here. Anthony, man, I love that this community is coming together here. How freaking fantastic.
It's fantastic, and we got to keep each other smiling. That's why I sent you in a text Borat running on the beach with his Borat bathing suit.
And I needed that. And if you all want to make fun of me, now that we're pretty much here on lockdown, my glasses, of course, broke. So I've got them all taped up, but I'm trying to be fashion forward with using red tape over here. So we'll see. And let's follow this story as we go and watch my my hair grow for the next 8 weeks and become long and lustrous while Anthony gets jealous. I want to thank you guys.
Right. And the most important question is, do I shave or not shave? Do I not shave until this is all over? That's the question.
I like that. Let's see what happens. And if this goes on long enough, you get another job filling in for the guys at ZZ Top. So that's a great news. We're gonna look forward to lots of success. I want to thank all of you guys for watching. We'll be back tomorrow, I think, at 11 a.m. Be on the lookout on LinkedIn, and all the notifications are pushing online. Thanks very much, and we'll see you then.